Okay, that's better, thank
Okay.
you.
This summer we inspected 113 ponds. We did 75 woodlot surveys. Caitlin built 11 GIS maps. We did 10 SWIP site inspections. We did 9 sewer storm lateral inspections, and we did 8 downspout inspections.
So for our pond inspections, we went to every pond that the town is responsible for and inspected that they were working as designed. There were 113 ponds total. This involved finding a utility map, inspecting using Survey 123, which is a program through Esri, taking pictures of the attributes of the pond, and writing a report for each pond. So this is an example of those things listed before. The photo in the top left is the outlet structure, so we had to find that from the drawing, which is on the top right, and that's how we find the inlet and the outlet. They're highlighted on the drawings. The bottom right is the overview of the pond, and then bottom left is what our reports look like with the information from each pond. And then sometimes we have to go behind houses for the ponds with easements, so this is how we locate the easements. They're on the as-built drawings, and we highlight them and bring them with us in case there are any questions as we're going to inspect the ponds.
We also did woodlot surveying this summer. First I mapped out potential woodlots that were 5 acres or more using Nearmap. And then we went to 78 wooded areas and collected data using Survey 123. We collected photos and counted the trees. This was to ensure the woodlots met the EPOD standards in the town code. In the end, 75 wooded areas met the town criteria for woodlot EPOD. And then Caitlin mapped out each woodlot with ArcGIS. So this is the Nearmap data that I first found, and then this is a sample from woodlot 57. We made sure that the trees were 4 feet high and had a diameter of at least 6 inches. And then this is an example of one of the woodlots. So each data point has this type of data. From that, Caitlin mapped out the existing map that was approximately 12.4%. Like the old map, that was the woodlot EPOD, and approximately 2,600 acres of land was the woodlot EPOD, and then in the proposed new map, there's 14.1% woodlot EPOD and approximately 3,000 acres. And this is a map comparing the existing map and the proposed map. So the dark green is the proposed map, and then where you can see where they kind of have some overlap.
As far as GIS mapping went, I made interdepartmental reference maps. I created maps from requests that we got in, made maps for grant applications, as well as attending weekly GIS meetings with the consultants, and continued work on our public-facing GIS program, which involved finding reference layers, coding interactive maps, and getting pop-ups to work so when you select things, their specific information comes up. So this is an example of an interdepartmental map I made. It is a engineering MS4 resource. It is the Webster watersheds with creeks and streets. This was a map I made from a request from the Webster Central School District so that they could map out their late bus routes. So that is the school district boundary with streets. And then from that, they gave me a sketch back, and I digitized that and made this map that they have now laminated and posted in their schools for students to find their late bus runs. And this was an example of one that I made for a grant application. This is our Huck 12 watersheds, which is the hydrological unit code, which are different from the actual watersheds, and this was a requirement for one of the grants we applied for.
We also did SWIP site inspections. We received in the beginning of the summer our 4-hour erosion and sediment control certificate, And at each of the 10 construction sites, we would look at their integrity to make sure they were compliant with New York State permits and the construction site's stormwater pollution prevention plan. Pollution can be anything from litter to water with sediments flowing into the surrounding streams. We would look for best management practices such as silt fence, silt socks, and water control equipment.
We also conducted sewer stormwater lateral inspections at new construction sites. So we coordinated with the builders for a time to come out when they would be finished installing them. We arrive on site, use a level to determine that it's pitching away from the house and it's over 2%. We would capture pictures like the ones to the right, and then we would write reports, and that's an example of a report with the slope, pipe, and type of joint. We also did downspout inspections, which is the same process as the sewer storm lateral inspections, and this can be done before or after the full house is built, and the reports are slightly different. And so the picture above is of one before the house is built, and the picture below is after the house is built.
Some of my highlights were I enjoyed learning about the government construction side of environmental science. This job introduced me to new career paths such as wetland delineation and environmental roles in government. My favorite assignment to work on was the pond inspections and the woodlot surveys. And my favorite experience was holding the frog with one eye while we were doing pond inspections. This internship gave me experience and knowledge in multiple topics that I now value, like construction, surveying, and town board meetings. And this is a picture of the frog with one eye.
And my highlights were I enjoyed working on the pond spreadsheet and the survey and making sure all the formatting was the same and that each pond had the same information included, so we have a standard going forward. I learned that I liked field work for short periods of time, but I would prefer a desk job. This internship gave me insight into how government works, and I could definitely see myself working in the public sector. My favorite part of the year was the GIS assignments I was given to complete. I was able to teach myself new skills on ArcGIS that I can use in my future endeavors. And my second favorite part was all the wildlife that we saw during our inspections, and that is a little snake that we saw while we were out.
Any questions?
I have one question, and I'm not sure it's fair to ask either of you this question. Josh might be able to better address it. When we talked about this woodlot surveying process, and we look at the two different maps where there's the overlay, do you have any idea when the last time we did a woodlot survey was?
Yeah, the existing woodlot map was done in 1979.
Okay.
So it's been quite some time since it's been updated.
Which is why we would see such a growth in the area, because trees have just grown and gotten bigger if they haven't been taken down for development.
That is part of it, yes.
Okay, so this was a great opportunity for the town, certainly, to gain some additional resources using our summer interns. Sorry to say using, but leveraging, thank you, that's a much better word. Leveraging our interns. And I just think we started this program 3-4 years ago using summer interns, and it's really just been a tremendous benefit both to the town and I hope to the interns. So we have really appreciated everything that you've done for us this summer. What are your plans now? James, I'll go to you first.
On Monday, I'm going back to Brockport to finish my last semester of college, so I'm very excited for that.
And what is your degree program?
Environmental science.
Wonderful.
And with a concentration in wildlife and terrestrial ecology.
Great. Caitlin?
I'm staying with the town part-time through November, and the other part-time where I'm not here, I'm going to be an assistant coach at Buffalo State coaching softball.
Fantastic.
Wow, nice.
Nice.
That is great.
So will this become the new official EPOD map?
Yes, we will be bringing this before the board for their consideration to adopt the new map, and we will also have to adjust some of the text of our code associated with the regulations, but yes, we look forward to bringing this before the board in the near future.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work. Lots of good stuff.
The other thing I really like is I think through experience we often find what we dislike as well as like, and that's an important learning experience as well.
Thank you, you both,
Yes.
for your experience.
Thank
and
you.
your work.
And best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else?
You and Jennifer took my thunder. I was going to talk about the e-pads. And I greatly appreciate all the work that you've done and will continue to do when you come back till November. Your input's been very valuable to the town. It really has. I'm glad that we did start this, 3 years ago, and I hope we continue to do this because it benefits not only the town, but it benefits the students that are here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next topic we have, and we are, maybe 5 minutes ahead of schedule, which is good because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of conversation about this, is we have a presentation on Webster WPCF biogas tax credit opportunities. We've got Rick Keneally. Paul Adams is going to sit in on this, as well as Bob Wimmer and Roberto Davas from Navitas.
Thank you. I didn't realize when Tom was asking me to come back last month when I was here, I would get to see the interns, because last year I got to see the interns' presentation. So it's a great program. I mean, for everyone in the engineering field, we love to see interns because, as you said, when you hire them, they know what they want to do, and you're not bringing them into a position that they ultimately don't want to do. So I thank you to Webster for hosting that program. I do appreciate it.
You bet. And we all did get a sneak preview of this when you were here last time, but we ran out of time.
Yes.
And felt that it really deserved a discussion all on its own. So I appreciate you coming back and showing us this.
Okay, I appreciate it. So what we want to talk about is a tax credit grant opportunity that has become available to the town at the wastewater treatment plant associated with the biogas that is produced as part of the system. So biogas or digester gas, this is part of the production from the anaerobic digesters. So part of the upgrades to the facility there are the addition of a new 1 million gallon anaerobic digester. And that digester converts solid material into a gas. And it includes both what are known as primary sludge and waste activated sludge. These are the two byproducts of treating sewage as they come into the wastewater treatment plant. And it will also convert high strength organic waste. So this is the byproducts of food production, such as the Fairlife facility, commercial kitchens, and other entities that produce an organic waste material. Digester gas is primarily energy. It's 60 to 70% methane or natural gas. It includes a fair bit of water vapor. The digester gas is saturated with water. And the remaining components are primarily carbon dioxide, so about 30 to 40% carbon dioxide. So historically, the digester gas was just burned off or vented to the atmosphere. The upgrades to the facility do two things for it. The first is going into the digester boilers. These are commercial boilers that convert the digester gas into heat, and that heat is utilized to heat the digesters, which keeps the biological process going. And that boiler also heats all of the digester building, so all of the building heat is provided by this boiler. So one of the benefits of this project was this reduced the natural gas purchase for the wastewater treatment plant. So this is about 47% of the average production. Any excess gas production is combusted in the flare, which is in the bottom right picture. So this is both a regulatory and a safety component to the project. And the remaining gas is safely combusted and destroyed in that flare to meet the regulations. But that 53% of the produced gas basically has no financial benefit, so it's just destroyed. So the question comes up is is this a potential asset that Webster can do something with? For instance, it can be utilized to reduce utility expenses or potentially create a revenue source, and I'll go into detail on that in a little bit. It can be utilized as a marketing tool, such as the way the dried product building was done for bringing potential industry into the Xerox property. And most importantly is this digester gas now provides a potential funding source via a tax credit or grant program that the federal government is now operating. When the project originally started, this tax credit program was not available. It was not in force. It was a legislation that was passed at the end of 2022, and the regulations were put into force in 2023. So when the project first started, this was not an opportunity that Webster was presented with. So in terms of how you get a reduction in utility expenses or create a revenue, there's two main approaches to doing that. The first is to convert that gas into electricity and heat. This is what's known as combined heat and power, or CHP. So the digester gas has the water removed, it's combusted, and then it creates heat and electricity. With the potential, the amount of gas out there to produce enough energy to reduce the power consumption at the facility by $100,000 to $200,000 per year. Our initial estimates on this project, we've done some high-level evaluations, is that there's about a $5 million capital investment in order to get the equipment and facilities necessary to put a combined heat and power system in. The second option is what is known as the conversion to renewable natural gas. So this is taking that digester gas and making the equivalent of natural gas that's piped into homes and commercial businesses here. The carbon dioxide and other components are removed from the digester gas. It would be injected into the RG&E gas distribution system, and that gas can be sold back into the system as a revenue source. And based on some discussions with those who buy renewable natural gas, the range of value for Webster is between $300,000 and $600,000 per year in revenue from the sale of that renewable natural gas. This is a more capital-intensive system because of the way the technology is implemented. So our initial high-level estimates are that this is about a $9 million capital investment. So looking at this just as an example, this is a renewable natural gas cleaning system. These are containerized systems that utilize a series of membranes to remove the carbon dioxide and then produce natural gas at the end of the day. So one of the other things we talked about as a potential advantage of this is through the viability of a marketing tool for this. When Fairlife first was evaluating different towns and municipalities for the placement of their new facility, one of the things that drew them to Webster, as we talked to them after the fact, was the dried product or the fertilizer production facility that is currently under construction at the wastewater treatment plant. That for Fairlife was very important because it allowed them to meet their internal goals of taking waste from their facility and turning it back into the farms that produce the milk that they then process. So they liked the idea of closing the loop of taking nutrients out of the milk and then placing it back into the farm fields so that the crops were feeding the cows in a closed loop. So as Webster is continuing to try and get development on the Xerox campus and throughout the rest of the town, the very efficient wastewater treatment plant, low operating costs, and renewable energy production do provide another tool for Webster to potentially recruit industries that are looking for that. And as we spoke to Fairlife after the fact, there were only a few differentiators that made them select Webster, and so the dryer facility was important to them, along with the ability of the wastewater plant to handle their waste. So there are opportunities to turn this into a benefit as you continue to try and develop the economy here. So getting into my least favorite portion of this, but Paul is always ready to jump in as necessary. Again, this opportunity came originally through the Inflation Reduction Act. So there's a clean energy tax credit that allows entities to receive a tax credit for the construction of these facilities. And then the question then comes up, well, Webster doesn't pay any taxes, so how are we going to get a tax credit? One of the components of the Inflation Reduction Act is this Section 6417, and what that did, it said that any entity that does not pay taxes, municipalities, nonprofits, anything like that, they are eligible for, instead of a tax credit, a direct payment grant equivalent to what the tax payment would have been for a tax-paying entity. So, go ahead, Paul. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, basically, it's a refundable credit. We'd be filing the renewable energy production credit form, and we'd be filing actually a 980T for that year. We typically don't file a tax return, but we file it just to get the credit.
Thanks, Paul. And then one of the questions that came up was, what's the viability of this this program going forward with the change in administration? So the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill, which addressed a lot of the tax credits that were out there, preserved this specific tax credit and also enhanced some other components of this tax credit. So in current law and legislation and IRS rules, both this tax credit and the components of it are still in effect. So in order to qualify that, in addition to filing the tax form that Paul mentioned, is 4 basic components of the project. One is that you have to have this biogas to energy conversion system. So you have to have either a CHP system or an RNG system, and it has to be in operation. That component is not currently in the scope or in the project at the wastewater plant. If you do put that system in, then there's the one-time payment, or that refundable tax credit that Paul mentioned, of 40% of the design for that system, plus other eligible components that are necessary to produce the biogas. And this is the critical component of why this becomes a viable potential for Webster, in our opinion, is that there's a lot of the project that now becomes eligible for a tax credit. And I'll go into detail on that in a little bit. The payment application is submitted the year after the system is placed in service. So with our current calendar year, the earliest the system could go into service would be 2026. If that's the case, it could be applied for in 27 and would be delivered. If not, if it went into service in 27, it would be 2028 before that. And the final piece of this is because of the way the rules are written, the project to be eligible, or any project to be eligible for this tax credit, had to be in construction prior to the end of 2024. So the current project, of which this could be incorporated, started in 2023, so this box has already been checked and puts Webster in a position to potentially get this credit. So here's the piece that makes this a very interesting opportunity for Webster if you should choose to pursue it. There are a number of components of the project that have already that are either in service or actively in construction. That includes the primary digester, the upgrades to the existing tanks that were out there, the high-strength waste acceptance facility, some upgrades to the utilities, along with a number of project design and other costs. All this adds up to about $26.8 million. Of that $26.8 million, 40% of that would then qualify as a tax credit or grant. So of money that you have already allocated and agreed to commit to the wastewater plant, 10.7 million of that could come back as the tax credit or the grant if you guys incorporated this biogas conversion project. So again, just to summarize at the high level, we've done our initial evaluation. So one of these two systems would meet that criteria, so either electricity and heat generation or the renewable natural gas production. Again, we've estimated the capital investment somewhere between $4 and $9 million on that. And it provides either a $100,000 cost reduction in electricity or up to $500,000 in net revenue from the sale of renewable natural gas. These figures take out the operating costs that were not addressed earlier. On its own, that $4 to $9 million also is eligible for the 40% tax credit. So that has the potential for $1.6 to $3.6 million in tax credit also. So, add it all up on the next slide. This is the super simple way of how it works. There's 100 inserted steps that have to happen, of course, as with all things. But first step is the permitting and interconnection phase. So agreements with RG&E that electricity or renewable natural gas will be part of their system. The other permits that are necessary from both the state and RG&E. System needs to be designed, equipment procured, ultimately installed and commissioned, so that you're producing electricity or RNG. Whole pile of documentation is necessary for the IRS. And then, as Paul noted, Form 990T gets filed, and in either 27 or 28, the town would receive that refundable tax credit in the form of a grant. So, to summarize this, we kind of looked at the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. So our definition of the worst case scenario is the combined heat and power system of electricity generation. And we're also assuming that because no one can predict the future of Washington, D.C., that somewhere in the next 2 years, legislation was passed that wiped out this tax credit. And you guys were no longer eligible for the tax credit when the time came. In that case, if that happened, in the worst case, you would increase the total project by $5 million. So the total bond allocation would be up to $74 million. The debt service would increase from $3.45 million estimated based on current rates. Those have not been finalized yet to about $3.7 million. The annual operations and savings you get from that system are about $100,000. So at the end, you'd end up increasing the annual debt service plus operations by $150,000. So again, worst case, not the greatest of deals. Best case scenario. Yes. Yep. Best case scenario, the renewable natural gas system, which, and assuming that no changes happen in the legislation, and the legislation and rules as written today are maintained in 2027, 2028. In that case, there'd be an overall reduction in the amount of bond allocation or bond purchases that Webster has to do by about $5.3 million. The annual debt service would decrease to $3.19 million. And the annual budget, debt service plus operations, would decrease by $760,000 per year to $2.69 million. Again, the operations costs are only those associated just with these two components. It doesn't include the other operations costs at the facility. So that is both, the best case and the worst case in our early opinion of what's here. We, Navitas and the team at the wastewater plant, we received, the information related to this program. We've been studying it for the last year or so. After doing the analysis of the current situation, we wanted to make sure that the town and the board knew the opportunity that was out there. We felt it was our duty to provide you with the most current information about opportunities that were out there. We're not here to make a recommendation or anything like that, but just merely wanted to make sure that you guys knew what that opportunity was. And with that, I'm very happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Before we get into questions, and I'm sure that there are going to be several, first of all, my head hurts.
Okay.
This is a lot to digest. And I want to thank you for explaining, and I just want to reiterate that you are presenting this as an opportunity, something that we could take a look at. It's not something that we're recommending. It's something that you brought both to the supervisor and myself as liaison to the sewer department a few weeks ago. And we have always just looked at this as, all right, let's get some education out there and try to let everybody know where this opportunity lies and to make an educated guess, perhaps, at what the future holds. One of the questions that I did have was, if the town were interested in looking at this, would this be considered part of an energy performance contract where, similar to the contract we're already in, you guarantee revenues for a certain amount of time?
Yes, so in order for this tax credit to be eligible, or Webster to be eligible for this credit, it would be a continuation of the current project, because you're trying to couple the expenditures that you've already made with this expenditure, package it all together and send it to the IRS. So it would be the same energy performance contract. That being said, yes, depending on whether or not it was electricity generation or RNG sales, the revenue or the savings, whichever one was selected, would be part of the guarantee that is folded into this energy performance contract. So it would be additive to the existing guarantees that are already part of this contract.
Thank you. The other thing that I looked at in this is that if we were to invest $9 million and go with the renewable natural gas, with what we're looking at in possible tax credit for not only that project, but for portions of the project that were already in place, we could possibly get a tax credit of $14.2 million?
That's correct.
So that the additional 5.2 could reduce the debt that we've already looked at for the project of Phase 2.
Yes, so the Phase 2 project, with the $20 million grant that you've already received from New York, is currently bonded at about $69 million and change. So if the RNG option, the best case scenario, where you invested $9 million, was selected and implemented, at the end of the day, instead of bonding $69 million, you would bond $63.7 million. So there'd be a reduction of $5.3 million in total bond indebtedness.
Depending on the timing of it, we would either borrow less or borrow a higher amount, but use those tax credit dollars to pay down principal and interest over a period of time. We may get caught because you can only do a bond anticipation note for 5 years, and the last year would be 2027. So we might get in a position where we have to take into a serial bond, and we wouldn't get the credit until 2028, but we could set that money aside and the debt service fund and use that to make principal and interest payments. So it would be the same net effect. I would also point out that if the town decides to proceed with this, we would be hiring a firm or firms to confirm that those components actually qualify in conjunction with the internal revenue code. Because that's a risk. We can say, yeah, we think this qualifies, but we need an expert opinion on that to give us assurance before we proceed.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I have one other question, and then certainly I want everyone else to ask theirs. If we were to go with the $5 million project and go to reduced energy costs, then that which is already in place would not, of the project, would not be eligible for
No,
the
it
grant?
would also be eligible.
It would, okay.
Yes. So the components of the project that are already under contract would be eligible for a tax credit in either scenario.
Okay.
It's just a question of whether or not you want to do electricity production or natural gas production.
Thank you.
Yep.
John?
Great questions, Patty, I appreciate it, and thanks for all the work that you've done on this, to
Absolutely.
present this to us. Obviously, this is our first time I'm having a look at this, so I'm definitely gonna need more time to take a deeper dive into it.
Please.
Perhaps meet with you and Rick when I formulate additional questions, which I certainly will. How did you measure, you came up with a percentage of excess gas, how did you measure that?
So
Or did you estimate it?
I'm sorry, yes, when we designed the facility, we sized the boiler to heat the digester and to heat the building. So we know how much gas is going to be consumed by that boiler for those two needs. So that's the one part of the equation, is that takeaway. We also did our design around the amount of sludge material that would be produced as part of the process, and the amount of waste that would be showing up at the facility. As Patty mentioned, that waste is part of the revenue guarantee for the project. So we know how much waste is going into the digester, so we know the total amount of gas that we expect to be produced. So we took the total, knocked out the portion that we know is going to the boiler, and that's the split between those two.
And weren't those
So-
conservative numbers too?
Yes, those are, as Rick noted.
Production was conservative numbers too, so there's an upside.
Right, but at some point, when it's up and everything's up and running, you'll be able to actually get measurements, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. So specifically, the gas leaving the digester, we have a flow measurement on that digester gas, and then the flow going to the boiler, we have a flow measurement on that gas, so we know exactly where the gas ultimately is going when the facility is fully up and operational.
So obviously, all these numbers are used to formulate the potential revenue when you calculate that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you,
No problem.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's all I had.
Jenny?
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Like I said, we need to look at it more and to try to analyze what's best for everything. I have a couple questions, but I don't know it's good, redundant to this or not. This look like we are in a phase 2 right now. If we were doing, we're looking to this.
Yeah, so
do this.
the phase 2 goes back 7 years. So the first project that was done in 2018 was known as the phase 1 project, which was the secondary clarifiers at the facility. Phase 2 is the project that we're currently in. So it's either the phase 2 contract or the energy performance contract. Either one is a terminology that's been thrown around over time.
Okay, and what will be the total cost of the total project at the end? Can you tell, or no? Right now it's early to predict.
So based on our estimates, the total project would either be $98 million or between $95 and $98 million. Right now, the project is at $89 million. And we are on time, on budget on that project. So this would be an additional allocation of either $5 or $9 million to that project.
And what is the interest that we are paying right now so far?
Paul?
The bond resolution would have to be amended.
I think she asked what our interest rate was.
What's
What's our current interest rate?
Our current interest rate. Well, on the short-term band borrowing, we got a net interest rate of 2.66. On bond, I think it would be a little higher, so I think probably around 3%.
And how many millions does the town have right now in the reserve fund? And will that, when we use those money toward this project?
Pardon?
How many millions?
Reserve.
Yeah,
The sewer capital reserve?
yes.
There's approximately 2.4 million in the capital reserve. And there are additional surplus funds of about 4 million in the sewer fund.
And then the second part of the question was, could any of that be applied to the cost of this?
But it could be, sure. Could be.
Thank you.
It could be, but that would be risky because you'd be depleting all of those funds and not have the funds in case of emergency, which we have several brewing out there.
Excellent point.
Osberg Pump Station being one of them. There's a lot of puts and takes to this.
Absolutely.
my question is, what would it cost? Paul, you mentioned we would need to hire a firm or multiple firms to determine if this project would even qualify for this grant. What would the cost be just to determine if we would qualify?
I think Navitas recommended a firm called Concord, and they did give us a price, was it around 30,000?
Yeah, it was between $25,000 and $30,000.
Yeah.
And that price has been factored into this budget.
I see.
I'd
Okay.
actually like to hire a second firm, and actually talk to Crew Maxic, to just confirm what Concord is coming up with, and then to also help with filing of the tax return to get the credits. So it'd be an additional cost involved.
And I think you've already had, I'm sorry, Paul, you've had some preliminary discussions with them to determine whether this was even something that we should entertain the possibility of.
Correct.
But they haven't given us a formal opinion.
Yeah, we need assurance.
Yes, exactly.
What we think is going to qualify, actually qualifies.
I do have another question. We're looking at the cost of building it. Do we have any idea what the annual cost of maintaining this process would be and how we apply that against our potential benefit?
Yeah, these numbers, the annual operation savings or revenues, factor in the operating and maintenance costs of the facility.
They do,
So,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
So, all great questions. And I don't know if this is feasible or not, but would we have the ability to have one of these two firms actually do the groundwork to say, yes, you would qualify, no, you wouldn't, prior to giving a commitment to, this is a significant amount of money
Yes.
on top of what we have already invested. So, you know, it's kind of a gamble, right? A significant gamble.
It's a big one.
So if we could have, but what you're saying is it is possible to recruit or hire whatever these two firms are to give us that analysis with obviously no guarantee. They may say yes, we still may not get the grant though, but we're on a better foothold as far as I'm concerned if we were to go that route to make a more educated guess.
Yes,
Or
both firms
determination.
will offer what's called a tax opinion letter. So that is a letter that you can take to a bond agency to support your bond allocation. But it's basically the opinion of someone who's qualified in the tax code as to whether or not the interpretation is appropriate. It is, as with all things, it has a cost. As Paul said, it's somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 for that. But they are more than willing to do that.
Generally, the IRS will grandfather in projects that are already in process.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's no guarantee of that. They can change the rules whenever they want, but generally, that's how it's worked historically.
There are current municipalities or entities that are receiving this tax credit already.
That is
for
correct,
these
yeah.
projects.
All right, once again, I look forward to meeting with you and Rick to dive a little deeper into this.
I still have another question.
Oh, please, this time I have more than 4 minutes.
Then going back to the puts and takes.
Yes.
What is the payback? What is the payback period for the $5 million option, and what is the payback period for the $9 million option?
So the $5 million option, if you did not receive a tax credit, so that worst case scenario is about 90 years.
Okay, that's bad.
The
Yeah.
payback for the best case scenario is either 0, if you get the tax credit, because it's already paid for fully, or if you just did that project without the tax credit, then it's about a 20-year payback.
Because of the increased revenue.
Right.
Return on RNG.
That's why I was saying puts and
Puts and
takes,
takes,
where I could, if you
absolutely.
just do the math on 9 million
Oh, yeah.
over $600,000 or whatever, you could see it's 15 year, 15 years,
Yeah,
anywhere between
absolutely.
15, 20
Yeah,
years.
again, as I mentioned earlier, we did an evaluation of whether or not it made sense to do CHP or RNG when the project first started. And at that point, none of the options had a viable payback, and they didn't make sense. This tax credit changed all the dynamics of that evaluation. And that's why we wanted to bring that to you, because the evaluation we did originally just doesn't hold water anymore.
Right.
Just to tie on to that, our early evaluation also, we weren't taking in all the high strength waste, we were taking in biosolids and being kind of a tipping fee and landfill for the other municipalities around here. Once we decided to go away from that and build a bigger digester and take it, and then Fairlight came to town, all of a sudden this excess biogas came to light, literally.
Yes.
It's lit right now.
Could you give us, some example, the municipality that are currently have this in effect and they get the grants?
Sure, so Navitas itself has received rebates from three municipalities in the Midwest, the city of Shawnee, Morgan County Schools, and Fort Osage, which is in Missouri. They have all received tax credit grants back. And then Concord, who's the firm that Paul mentioned that does this tax analysis, they also assist municipalities with these filings. They have received projects in Georgia, Missouri, Illinois, and Alabama. However, due to their non-disclosure agreements they have with those entities, I'm not able to share the specific names of those places. But if you engage in a conversation with Concord as a municipality, they would be willing to give you more details on the projects that they have worked with. So that's 7 entities that I know of in the U.S., and there are many more.
Okay, because that New York is a little bit complicated, so.
Oh, I know New York. A little bit. A little bit, yes.
That could be the understatement of the evening.
Yeah.
They have a permit to give a sauce demonstration. So,
Yes.
heartache.
I have 2 questions. Is there anything else, or do we want to look to wrap this up?
Good.
Okay, well, if the board, decided they wanted to look into this further, talk to me about the timing that would have to happen as far as our deadlines of when the construction has to be continuous.
Yep.
And when it has to be completed and part of the phase 2 project.
Yeah, so if the board elected to move forward, construction would have to initiate on this component of the project before the end of July 2026, so
Okay.
next year.
Okay.
The activities involved are the permitting, the purchase of the materials, and the design of the system. So those are the precursors to getting that construction to start. That can be fit within the available time that's left between now and July. And even if it was the next board that decided to take action, it could happen with some. If we did it right, we can make it happen so that we have the construction activity going. There's a generous definition of what continuous construction means in the IRS book. So that's really the next steps are, one, you guys getting confirmation from a third party that you're eligible, that all the components are eligible, the permitting, and then the design of the facility.
And then before we're looking at any kind of real true numbers, is there additional engineering that needs to be done?
Yes, there's additional engineering that needs to be done for 2 things. One is the permit applications have a certain level of engineering that is required so that you can demonstrate to the utility that you are protecting their systems as you interconnect with them. And secondly, the design of those facilities and the components at the wastewater plant need to be designed and engineered.
Would that be an additional fee from Navitas? I assume that Navitas would be doing the engineering.
Yes, that would be an additional fee. That scope and fee would be negotiated and figured out if it made sense to be added into the project.
So that's,
But
that engineering fee is not included in your estimates?
The engineering fee is included in the
Okay.
estimate, yes.
Sorry to cut
Yeah,
you
the-
off, Patty.
Yeah, I didn't want to present anything but an all-in
Okay.
Great.
estimate. So, the only thing that's not in there is, how many, if you want the fourth and fifth and sixth
Right.
kind of opinion as to whether or not it's viable.
Bob, I have a question.
Yes.
Has there been talks or know how RG&E would handle this? Because.
It's a great
just
question.
A brief thing, and we did evaluate this in Rome. Before we went to combined heat and power, we looked at RNG. And what the big kicker was on there was a huge interconnection fee of over $1 million, which shot it right out of the ballpark for us. So I'm sure that's something we'd have to engage very early. If this was something that we looked at, is we had to get the utility on board real quick.
Yeah, I've reached out to RG&E to start the discussion, knowing what other entities have gone through to make this interconnection. I'm currently carrying about $1.5 million for the RNG extortion fee for interconnection. So.
Well, now reconnection fee just went up to $2 million.
I
Thank
know,
you.
that's okay. But yes, so we have factored in sort of those unknown costs
Yeah.
as conservatively as we could. I did not want to come out here and paint this beautiful rosy picture and have you guys walk down a road that doesn't make sense in the end. So trying to put as much of the potential costs in here without making it completely untenable.
So that $1.5 million interconnection fee is also part of the $9 million?
That's part of the capital, yes, the $9 million capital.
So from a project completion standpoint, because I know that we're coordinating, we're trying to stay ahead of Fairlife for when they come online.
Oh, that was a softball.
So if we decide to expand this project,
Yes.
what positive or negative impact, or will it not have any impact whatsoever on Fairlife coming online so that we're ready for them?
So last month when I was here talking about the construction, the commitment we made to Fairlife was that by August 30th of this year, we would be ready to receive their flows. The last system needed for Fairlife's flows comes online next week on Wednesday. So at a minimum, 3 days early, at worst, the day that they ask for it,
Right.
we will be ready for their flows.
That's a great job.
We have met our commitment to Fairlife.
Are they,
But this wouldn't
All of
affect
this,
it at all.
yeah, all of this is additional add-on work. It does not impact
Great.
the ability to treat Fairlife.
next question has nothing to do with this project.
Okay?
That's not fair.
Again, I appreciate your presentation with realistic numbers in here.
Yes.
I look forward to meeting with you and Rick in the
Absolutely.
near future. We're going to be ready to receive effluent from Fairlife ahead of schedule or on schedule.
Yes.
Correct, right?
100%.
Do you know what the latest update as to will they be sending it when we're ready? Do you know?
I'm gonna leave that to
Can
Rick
I-
to answer.
Can I answer that, or Rick wants to answer
I
that?
will. The timeline we have right now is line number 1 will be sending flow to us, or to the treatment plant, and then to us, January.
But they're testing lines and
Yeah.
some of that will be sent to
They're
us.
sending us clean water right now,
Right.
but it's nothing we have to treat. But they're talking January for line 1, February line 2, and April line 3. So full
Well,
flow
I'll tell you
on
what,
this
great job getting the phase 2 up and ready for Fairlife, and that was our goal,
That was our commitment.
right?
Yes.
So we've met our commitment, we're going to meet it, and that's fantastic, so great work on that by your whole team. That's all I had.
I just wish there was more, it seems like a no-brainer to do it. Like, the math and the payback is like immediate. But there's so much risk around this process, or around whatever, around the approvals and does it qualify, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess what I would say is whether or not it qualifies and whether or not you are eligible for the credit, I think that risk can be very easily assuaged when you have some outside firms look at it who do these projects all the time. There is no doubt risk in what Washington DC decides to do in the next 2 years. And that is risk that I don't think there's any firm that's going to sign a letter saying that there's not going to be any changes there. That is where the risk lies, because so much of the payback is associated with that tax credit.
I have one last question.
Yes.
I'm just curious, what did we find out about this grant, this, information, and then why didn't we incorporate it into the phase 2 before, you asking for additional for this?
So the phase 2 project was basically designed during 2022 and early 2023. And the contract was signed and construction started in June of 2023. The IRS put out their rules and regulations relative to this tax credit in August of 2023. So it was 2 months after the start of the project that they first promulgated their draft rules. So it wasn't a program that existed at the time that the project first started.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we would not have enough biogas to make it viable anyways because Fairlife hadn't come to town yet.
Right.
Fairlife is the big player that's going to allow us to produce this excess biogas. So that's really the other ball that dropped on it for us.
Thank you.
I don't understand how you can make decisions, how they can't grandfather in the tax credits if you're making decisions on a multiple $1 million system based on a credit and then take it away. Like, I don't get that.
I think there's a lot we don't get about the programs from the federal government.
Well, federal government, to your point, Jennifer, is now backing out tax credits for wind and solar. That's just being announced right now. So, yeah.
I really appreciate all the questions that have been asked. I think we're certainly better educated than when we started 40 minutes ago. And Bob, I want to thank you for the presentation and again for returning to town to explain all this to us. I do want to give us at least 4 minutes before the actual board meeting starts.
Sounds good.
So I think we're not really prepared to say, okay, go do some more engineering, and Paul, check with Concord and Fried Maxic. Let's talk a little bit more about it, and there may be additional questions that come up. John, you said you'd like to meet with them again. I think that's great, so let's reconvene on this maybe in a month or so, if we can get those conversations going.
You know where to find me.
Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate it. And that will end the workshop tonight.